I'm talking to you today about breaking borders with maths and G Suite. So what did I do? So last year I ran a project connecting classrooms all over the world, and I'll give you a bit of background on how we started and why we started, and I'll tell you about the products we used from the G Suite range. So these are all the different things that we've used within maths to connect classes and also work on this project that I did. And I'm going to start off just by talking a little bit about the school I'm currently teaching. I teach maths, as I said, and I'm going to talk to you about why we ran this project as it was. So my name's Andy Cooper. I teach at a large secondary school in West Sussex, in the heart of West Sussex, as you can see on this map. We're a large secondary school, very rural secondary school, so we've got about 1,800 kids that come from quite a large area. So our catchment area is sort of around here, and a lot of the kids here don't ever talk to people outside of the immediate area. Their idea of going somewhere is to Horsham, the nearest town, to do some shopping or catch up with some friends. But otherwise, they're quite insular. They really don't experience life outside, and certainly their knowledge of people outside of the area is quite limited. My background, so I started in EdTech before I started teaching, really. So I was looking at, I started using Dropbox and Google Drive when they first sort of came out. Padlet, I've now started using an awful lot with my global collaborations, and I will talk about that a bit later on. In maths, obviously, we use Desmos, which is one of the main graphical calculators, which is awesome. There's some awesome activities in there. And then the sort of the spark for doing this project was all about, I was doing my Google training, educator level 1 and 2, and then now I'm just become a certified trainer. So I'm quite happy about my Google training. This is the typical technology that was previously used in maths before I started this project, and we still use a lot of this. The Timetable Rockstars is an online Rockstar timetable program. My Maths is as a whole set of resources for teaching maths, but it's a little bit dated now. We still use it an awful lot for sort of homeworks and things. Kahoot, I think everybody knows about Kahoot. It's online quizzes, and then Method Maths is specific exam practice for GCSE maths. So not particularly inspiring, not particularly exciting. So the project, where it started, we have a partnership we have quite a few partnership schools in Kenya where each year we take some sixth formers out to these schools in Kenya where they're, as you'd expect, mud huts. One of the classes I went to last year, the classroom was actually under a tree. And so we got some raw data about these kids in Kenya. And it was all paper-based. So our sixth formers would go out, they'd fill in a questionnaire by hand, and then we'd bring the data back, type it all into spreadsheets, print it off on A3 sheets, give it to our students, and then get them to analyze some data and start looking at it. Quite laborious, and actually the kids didn't get the same level. I didn't feel like they got the same level of ownership of the task. Certainly being given great big sets of A3 paper with lots and lots and lots of data on it was a little bit unwieldy, and trying to do anything meaningful from it was quite labor intensive. So it absolutely needed more modernizing. So whilst doing my training, I thought, okay, well, let's see, because there's an awful lot of communities out there about connecting classrooms. So I met a chap called Rhett Oldham online. He's a teacher of world history, I think, over in Missouri. And he does global collaboration projects. So we hooked up with a class, and we just did a face-to-face. We tried to do a mystery locations hangout, which didn't really work very well. And if you don't know what a mystery location hangout is, have a look on Connecting Classrooms and have a look on there. And basically it's a game of 20 questions where you try and work out where you are. We rapidly discovered that kids in America and kids in the UK don't know enough geography about each other's countries. So it became a social event. However, that kind of spurred me on to rebuilding my project and looking at how we can modernize it. So here comes the blueprint of the project. So I wanted to connect with schools. I wanted to connect with schools internationally, not just in Kenya. I wanted to get Africa involved, but obviously an awful lot of Kenya and Africa is is reasonably deprived and they don't have access to fast enough internet. So that was kind of difficult. So we were looking massively international. So the students were split into groups. I gave them all topics to basically come up with some questions, and we did this using Google Docs. So within Classroom, we came to the doc and said, right, this group you're going to talk about home life, this group you're going to talk about school life, future careers, holidays, hobbies. Yeah, I think that was all. So they had a range of questions that they could ask. So they all came up with some questions. We then vetted them and we broke it down into one complete questionnaire. So the whole class were involved in this. The kids knew we were going to share this with schools internationally, and their biggest question was, are we really getting some data from abroad? Are we really talking to schools in different countries? And I said, yes, we were. So I said to them, right, now think about your questions that you've asked. Think about what you're expecting the answers if you ask these of students in North America or Mexico or Tanzania and Australia, because these are the sorts of countries that we actually ended up getting involved in, and I'll show you the map in a minute. And so they created a hypothesis. They expected Americans, which was quite a stereotypical view of what they had, which was interesting. They expected Americans to all have great big cars, live in huge houses, go on really fancy holidays and things like that. Well, it turns out a lot of the schools that we did connect with in America were from similar sort of backgrounds to ours. So we have, a mixture of affluence and not, and we have, large families and small families and things. So they were quite surprised by that. So that was really exciting. We then got them to create the questionnaire using Google Forms. So they created a Google form collaboratively, which was quite a challenge, actually, getting 5 groups of people to actually work on the same Google form at the same time. But, we overcome that difficulty with that. We then shared the questionnaire. So I got the kids in the classes in the UK to complete the questionnaire. We got the kids in the countries around the world to complete the same questionnaire. So obviously the data came in, and they analysed it using Google Sheets. And then obviously we got them to create a questionnaire, create a presentation to send back to the other schools. So they created a presentation based on what they thought from their hypothesis, what the data showed, and what the differences were. So this was really, really an eye-opener for the kids. And they were really, at that point, obviously they'd seen the data was coming back saying, oh, we're in America, we're in Mexico, or we are anywhere else around the world. And that they had a massive buy-in at this point because they were so excited about the fact that they had data from these different countries. For some of the schools, we then for some of our classes, we managed to arrange a video hangout with these other schools. So time zones allowing, it was tricky. Tanzania managed because their time zone was really close to ours. Some of the American schools were too far away, and we ended up not being able to have a hangout. So that's something we're going to move for the future. Something I didn't say is I ran this project with all of year 7 and 8. So in my school, that's 2-year groups. That's 500 students. It's about 30 classes. Yeah, about 30 classes in total. So we all connected with 2 other classrooms around the world. So there's a vast number of kids actually involved in this, which was fantastic. So how did I execute it? So I started on Google Communities, Google Plus Communities, and if you haven't found those yet, I absolutely go and join a few. If you definitely want to run this, and you can run this with any sort of year groups, but go and join the Google Communities. There's one generally in every country around the world. If there isn't, there'll be one. So certainly like the African countries, you can definitely find one for North Africa, South Africa, and neighbouring countries. Introduce yourself, introduce your school, so you want to meet up and do things like this. There's also other communities like Connecting Classrooms, which is full of schools and teachers looking to make connections. There's an awful lot of schools that want to do, certainly primary schools looking to do like mystery number or mystery location, even books. So there's, I get messages about, can we have a book review? Can we talk about English literature with schools in the UK, which is fantastic, and we love this. Google Forms. Google Forms was absolutely the pinnacle for creating this, so that it wasn't filling in paper questionnaires, filling in, putting the data into a spreadsheet. So Google Forms did all of the donkey work that we did in the past, which was amazing. And then Google Hangouts were used to connect with the other classes around the world. I'm just going to show you the map now of all the different schools that we had involved. Now, some of these schools gave us loads of classes. I'm trying to think. Dibble Junior, I think we had 3 or 4 classes from there. But as you can see, they are all over the world. Now, I am branching out this year to include a few more countries, and there's teachers from different parts looking to join in. We've got a school in Rio that joined in after the project was finished, but we had a sixth form hangout with them because they wanted to learn English and they just wanted to communicate and just chat, which is fantastic. And I've just started another project with another school in Missouri with my sixth form. So actually that's a social connection rather than a curriculum-based one, because for the sixth form, the maths level is quite high, and actually doing a project about averages and data analysis isn't really what we need. But actually the kids are getting masses out of it. So what do the students get out of it? Ownership of the project was huge. So getting kids engaged with maths, getting engaged with doing averages, getting engaged with all of these sorts of things that they don't. A number of times you hear, maths is boring, I don't like maths. And I hate that because that's obviously my subject and that's really important. But to have something like this, which is a massive buy-in for kids, where they want to get involved and they're going, can we video chat our friends again, or can we arrange social media links with our friends? And I was like, that was amazing. So the new friends and the ownership of the project was just outstanding. Engagement with technology. So my school is not one-to-one with Chromebooks at all. We've got about 50 Chromebooks in our school at the moment. We've got 1,800 students, so there's definitely not one for everybody. So we were just using normal IT computers. We're getting kids to bring in their own devices. So that had its own sort of complications. One of the things we hadn't expected was our year 7s and 8s to have a lack of understanding on how to use a spreadsheet, how to create a chart in a spreadsheet, or how to produce graphs and things. And we actually spent a lot of time them drawing them on paper, unfortunately, because we were just running out of time for this project. That's definitely something new for the future. And a change of viewpoint, hypothesis and media bias. We had massive conversations about this, about what students perceive to be true about other countries around the world. They expected the Tanzania school to be really deprived and difficult, but actually it was an international school, so it was completely the opposite. They were international students, but they were still talking about Tanzania as though they were locals of Tanzania, which was really nice. And that was massive. Breaking people's stereotypes is huge, and that's something else we've been working on this year as a school, outside of this project, but we are going to be looking at this, doing again this next year. So going forward with my project, so next year, so what are we looking at? So I'm stretching my countries this year a bit further, so we're trying to get some more countries in Africa. Obviously the problem there is still the technology and access to the internet for them, which is really difficult. I'm arranging a global hangout day. So this is going to be a day where I talk to some of the schools around the world and say, look, and we've started looking at how to pencil this together. And we're just going to have a couple of open computers in our library, and we're going to have them connected to students in other parts of the world. And people can just come along and have a chat for a few minutes, ask some questions, and get instant chatting to each other. Video messaging. Time zones were our massive problem with trying to arrange video hangouts between our partner schools all around the world. And we're going to look at video messaging using all sorts of screen capture, Screencastify, even sort of your short YouTube videos, things like that, to actually get the kids talking to each other. Adding other subjects. So this is something where this project can go. So if you're not a maths teacher, you're not a secondary teacher, it doesn't matter. You can absolutely recreate this, I think, in any school setting. So primary schools absolutely can create a little mini project. It doesn't have to be, quite as detailed as the one I've just done last year. But connect your kids to kids around the world, make friends, make friends with teachers. Rhett, who I spoke about earlier, who introduced me to Global Collaborations, he's coming to the UK next year, and we're going to try and catch up, and hopefully in the future we'll go to America and catch up as well. So and we've talked about all sorts of projects since, and teachers are loving it, and the kids love it. The kids are so brought into trying to talk to other countries around the world. and cross-curricular wise, we could have done all sorts of other things. We could have brought in geography, history. Rhett's a history teacher and he loves to talk about history with other parts of the world. And for me, I'm not much of a historian, unfortunately. And we asked questions about the Magna Carta in 1066. I had to do a little bit of research before I spoke to him, which was a reasonably little bit embarrassing, but still was quite interesting. So absolutely, you can recreate all of this project for any year group in any school, no matter whether it's primary or secondary, and it doesn't matter what subject it is either. The kids will love it. The kids absolutely buy into it. So that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to look at some questions in a second. Here's my details if you want to get in touch, if you want to join in one of my collaborations. Just going to talk for a couple of seconds now about the collaboration I'm doing in my sixth form. So I've got this school in America that have some juniors and seniors who are interested in doing a global collaboration and chatting to each other. And so I kept this out of the curriculum and I've kept it out of teaching time because unfortunately teaching time for sixth form is really tight in the UK. So they started off just by introducing each other, having a little profile on, we used Padlet for this one. And they started interacting, and Padlet now has a comments feature. So if you post some questions on, you can actually people can comment, and the Padlets have gone really crazy. And the kids have now started on social media, and they're chatting to each other. And you know, one of the kids has shared videos of all the classes in their school and things like that. And the kids are absolutely loving it. We're going to arrange an actual hangout. So what will happen is the American kids are going to go in for breakfast at 6:45 in the morning. That's how much of a buy-in it is for the students. They're willing to go to school before school at 6:45 in the morning, which is an hour. It's over an hour before they should be in school anyway for their start of school. And they're going to have breakfast. And in the UK, it will be our lunchtime. So all my kids are going to come in. We're going to have lunch together just before Christmas. And we're going to try an international Kahoot. Haven't done it before. We're going to use Hangouts to host it for us. And we're going to try and arrange an international Kahoot between the Americans and the English kids. And the kids are really excited about it. So that's me. That's the project. If you want any more details, please feel free to email me or tweet me. I'm going to come back to the Hangout if I can and see if there's any questioning. So let's stop screen sharing. And if you didn't see me at the start, you should get a picture of me now. So I'm just going to have a quick scroll through some questions. Elaine, if you're still there, I'd love to do a collaboration with you in South Africa. Please get in touch via my email, which is on there. Let me see if there's any other actual. Hello from Missouri, USA. Yeah, I've got a couple of collaborations with Missouri already, but I'm absolutely the more the merrier. I haven't got any other questions. People are just pleased with what I've shared. Denise, it's nice to speak to you in Turkey. I'm glad you're listening to me today. I hope I've shared something useful with you. Any other questions? I shall hang on for a couple of minutes. But if you've got any specific questions, absolutely feel free to email me. I'll put my details back on the screen for you, so you can have a look at that. Let's go back to screen share. Fingers crossed it won't crash this time. Share, and we'll go back here. That's the map. That's not my details. So there's my details. So if you are interested in getting in touch, please do. Even if you don't want to collaborate with an English school, I've got all these schools on my map, obviously, that you've seen from different parts of the world. And I'm more than happy to, and they are more than happy to work with other people. Something we set up when we first started communicating, where are you interested in doing other collaborations? Every teacher has said yes. So it's really exciting and it's fun. Even if you start off just with a hangout, just where you're going to do the 20 questions with each other, with a different school around the world, absolutely do it. Find a year group and just say, look, how do you fancy having a chat to some kids in the States? You got to find out either where they are or they're going to think of a number and you've got to guess the number within 20 questions. And then they'll just have a chat. And absolutely you will love it. Just going to hold on for a couple of last seconds if there's anybody who's got any other questions. Oh, what is the biggest barrier? Here we go. So this is from Sanji, if I've pronounced that correctly. What is the biggest barrier to international collaboration that you have found? Brilliant question. The biggest barrier is the time zone. That is the only serious barrier that we've had in doing collaborations. It's actually having time zones with other students. I spoke to my assistant head about doing it, and he said, "Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just he's got no problem with running it." We've had I've not had any issues with people being difficult on social media after outside. Rhett said he had an American student who was going to go to Greece and meet up with some Greek girls that they'd met on one of their projects. The teacher spoke to him, he spoke to the boy, and that finished. So there was no real issues with the social media. It's literally just it was just it was just a bit of social media that just possibly got a little bit out of control, and he just nipped it in the bud, and that was done. Timetable these sessions. So for year 7 and 8, so this is a good question from Philippa. Do you timetable these sessions or do they happen over and above lesson time? So currently my American project, it's outside of lesson time. So this was a nice simple Padlet that we set up and we started into action. So this will all be outside of lesson time. However, the main project that I did, it was absolutely curriculum time. So we spent 2 weeks of our lessons. So that's about 8 lessons for each class. It was written into our scheme of work as in we were supposed to be doing data handling, the data handling cycle, hypothesis testing, looking at averages, creating bar graphs and things. And that's exactly what we did with the lessons, except we digitized it and we did it all online. The funniest thing I think we found was the kids didn't know how to create the charts in Sheets. Hadn't perceived that at all. My expectation was the new curriculum in primary schools would be such that they would know how to do that. We only teach it in year 9 in our secondary school, so actually by the time they've learnt it in our school, it was 2 years too late. So the funniest one was one of the kids decided to literally fill the cells within Google Sheets to create a bar graph. So she put numbers down one column and then filled the cells in the next however many columns to make a bar graph, which was mildly amusing. I applauded her for her ingenuity, although it was certainly not the simplest way of creating a bar graph. Okay, so somebody's asked about, this is Michelle, she's asked, what makes for good maths topics to talk about in a global collaboration? So the actual project we did was obviously all about data handling and things, so that fitted in perfectly. My normal global collaborations are all about global citizenship. So actually we talk to the kids, we find out about them. Obviously in America they've had some political change with their president and things, and certainly the UK media has presented the 2 candidates differently to how the American media has portrayed them. So actually talking to them about this, it's really, really interesting. And one of the kids was talking about the fact that he was a Republican, but he was too young to vote, and his parents were Democrat. And we just found that really, really interesting. So it's not just about maths, and I'll stress that massively. So certainly for my year 12s and 13s, my 6th form that are in project now, we do it sort of, we might borrow 5-10 minutes at the end of a lesson, or we'll go into break or lunch and we'll discuss things. But now they are all now, so we're less than a week in from when I shared the links with the different Padlets to them, and they're all now chatting on social media. They are all video chatting each other, talking to each other, Snapchatting, sharing pictures, sharing stuff about themselves all the time, which is absolutely amazing. I'm just going to see. Do I think the teaching application of maths helps to break these borders? I think this is from Mohammed. Mohammed, thank you for your question. I think just having a buy-in, so it sort of helps with the teaching of maths, because I've got students who not necessarily keen on maths, but they absolutely love this project, and actually their buy-in will now be thinking about how they've done the different maths topics within the global collaboration project. So absolutely, I think this will help breaking borders with other countries, certainly. Keith has asked a question, seems to be a lack of primary support. Any recommendations? Keith, just get in touch, send me an email, and I'll show you how to do these things. There's certainly in Scotland, they've all gone Chromebooks in the Scottish Highlands. And I don't know how much of these collaborations that they do, but I'm absolutely more than happy to talk to you about how you can set one up yourself. And if you want some help doing that, then absolutely getting in touch. Our biggest obstacles are access to devices and internet connection. So this is from Rita. Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the biggest problems. And it's about sharing. It's about sharing these. Now, I'm going back out to Kenya next year. As I say, we run this project out to Kenya, building classrooms each year, and we're looking to get teachers on board. They are slowly getting access to the internet and slowly getting better connections. But at the moment, unfortunately, that is going to be a limiting factor for schools that don't have these. I'm just going to scroll through because I've got loads more questions. Hello from Missouri. Hello, Missouri. Again, I've said that already. Just having a quick look to see if there's anything else. St. Joe from Jamaica, and lovely for you to join us. Adam's asked a question about ELL. I'm assuming this is English as an additional language. So we haven't had too many schools that have had any issues. Certainly, I've spoken to students in Greece, in Russia, and they're really keen. Okay, their level of English is not particularly high, but however, they can pretty much translate, or their teacher has enough English, or they've asked if they've got stuck with questions in the past. So we've not really had any of those issues at all. Joanna's asked a question about social media. So the caveat at the start is I have told the kids if they share their social media independently with each other, that's obviously something I cannot police. And we've not had an issue with that at all. However, I have said to the kids, if there is any issues, then bring it to us and we will talk to the teachers internationally. And try and I've not had a trouble yet. And I've had about 4 or 5 different collaborations where the kids have all gone social media. If there's, kids are quite savvy. I do explain to them, if they have troubles with somebody, or if somebody's asked them to be a friend and they're not sure about being their friend, then you just mute and block. So it's a little bit about education about the social media rather than just saying, you know what, you can't use it, because they will use the social media sites. They will use Snapchat and Facebook and all the other ones out there. And you can't stop that. Even if, the second you create a medium for kids to communicate with each other, they will then take it to their next level, which is whatever they feel most comfortable with. So, social media, it's a case of we educate the kids to be sensible on social media, and we educate them that I can't police it. I'm not going to sit there on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and monitor their conversations, because I can't do that. But as of yet, touch wood, thank goodness, I've not had any troubles with any of them. I haven't had any new questions. I think I've covered everything that's on the questions. As I said, if you do have any other further questions, feel free to either send me a message on Facebook, via email or Twitter. I'll put my details back on the screen now. So for one last chance. So there's my contact details. If you do want to get in touch about anything that I've covered today, please feel free. And I'm more than happy to help with anybody else following collaboration. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. I hope you got something out of this. And goodbye.